World War II is the most devastating war in human history. Numerous large cities were left crumbling after this war. Today, nearly all geopolitical events and international relations can be traced back to this war. Friends, I've told you many stories from World War II in previous videos, but in this video, let's understand World War II in depth, from start to end. What happened exactly? Why? And what was its impact? This is the story of World War II. It is difficult to track down one single event that sparked the conflict. Ultimately, it was a series of events that conspired together to eventually light a flame of war. The world's most hated treaty, the Treaty of Versailles, played a crucial role in starting World War II in 1939. Let's begin this story in 1919, the year when World War I ended. The famous peace treaty, known as the Treaty of Versailles, was signed. This treaty contained an important clause, Article 231, which held Germany responsible for all the losses caused due to World War I. This clause, also known as the War Guilt Clause, basically implied that regardless of the countries participating in the war, Germany was to be blamed entirely. France and Britain wanted Germany to pay heavy costs for losing this war and sought to recover their losses from it. As a result, Germany was told to pay a fine of $33 billion to other countries, which amounts to around $270 billion in today's money. This amount was so large that Germany made the final payment only in 2010, almost 100 years later. Germany's first payment in 1921 led to hyperinflation. Their currency, the German mark, lost its value rapidly. In 1922, a packet of bread cost 160 marks in Berlin. By 1923, the same bread cost 200 billion marks. The economy collapsed and unemployment skyrocketed. In these desperate times, Adolf Hitler entered the picture, a young political leader who knew how to manipulate the masses with his speeches. In 1923, his Nazi party attempted a coup to overthrow the German government. Though it failed, his popularity soared. Rumors spread that Germany's international humiliation was due to anti-national elements living within the country. People were distressed, and Hitler manipulated them. He blamed the Jews and socialists for Germany's disgrace, fueling hatred through propaganda. Over the next decade, media organizations were paid, and hate speeches became widespread. In 1929, the Great Depression worsened Germany's economic crisis. By 1933, 6 million people were unemployed. Many were homeless, and children starved to death. In this desperate situation, Hitler declared himself the dictator of Germany in 1933. Once in power, Hitler focused on his dream of a German empire, called the German Reich. His vision was of a racially pure state populated only by the Aryan race, with no space for Jews or Slavs. His government spread anti-Jewish propaganda aggressively. In 1935, the world learned that Germany had an air force, despite the Treaty of Versailles forbidding Germany from having any military power. But by then, many in Britain felt the treaty was too harsh on Germany and called it unfair. In June 1935, Britain signed the Anglo-German Naval Agreement, formally allowing Hitler to have his own navy. However, France was alarmed by Germany's militarization and built a 450-kilometer-long fortification on its eastern border, the Maginot Line. In 1938, Hitler believed his military was ready. His first target was Austria. He wanted all German-speaking countries to unite under one nation. So, he forced Austrian Chancellor Kurt Schuschnigg to appoint pro-Nazi leaders in the Austrian government. When Schuschnigg planned a national vote on whether Austria should remain independent, Hitler acted swiftly. He marched his army into Austria, and Schuschnigg resigned to avoid bloodshed. With the use of propaganda, Hitler made Austria part of Germany. After Austria, Hitler set his eyes on Czechoslovakia. The Sudetenland region had 3 million Germans, which Hitler used as an excuse to claim the area. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, desperate to avoid war, offered Hitler a deal. In September 1938, the Munich Agreement was signed. Britain and France allowed Hitler to take the Sudetenland in exchange for his promise that he would seek no further expansion. Chamberlain believed this would secure peace in Europe. However, Hitler broke the agreement within a year. In March 1939, Germany invaded the rest of Czechoslovakia. Britain and France were furious, and Churchill criticized Chamberlain for appeasing Hitler. But Hitler was already planning his next move, Poland. To invade Poland without Soviet interference, Hitler signed the Non-Aggression Pact with the Soviet Union in 1939. This surprised many, as Hitler despised communism. But the two nations secretly agreed to divide Poland between themselves. On September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland with nearly 1 million troops. Britain and France, realizing Hitler wouldn't stop, issued an ultimatum. When Hitler ignored it, they declared war on Germany. World War II had officially begun. This period is known as the Phony War, as no major battles took place initially. Poland's outdated military, using horses against German tanks, stood little chance. Within a week, German forces occupied Poland, while the Soviets invaded from the east. The Blitzkrieg strategy, or Lightning War, was key to Germany's victories. Fast-moving tanks and airstrikes overwhelmed enemies before they could react. German soldiers were even given drugs like Pervitin, now known as crystal meth, to fight without sleep. Meanwhile, Stalin worried that Germany would take Finland next. To prevent this, the Soviet Union demanded land from Finland. When Finland refused, the Soviets attacked. Despite being outmatched, Finland resisted for 2 months before signing a peace treaty. Hitler then turned his attention to Norway and Denmark. Using Blitzkrieg, he invaded both on April 9, 1940. Denmark surrendered in hours, and Norway soon fell. Britain's failure to protect them led to Neville Chamberlain's resignation as Prime Minister. On May 10, 1940, Winston Churchill became Prime Minister. That same day, Hitler launched a massive invasion of France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. The German army bypassed the heavily fortified Maginot Line through the Ardennes forest. French and British troops were surrounded. Around 400,000 Allied soldiers were trapped on the beaches of Dunkirk. Churchill launched Operation Dynamo, the biggest evacuation in history, using civilian boats to rescue the soldiers. Despite the success of the evacuation, France was doomed. On June 22, 1940, France surrendered. Hitler had now conquered Austria, Poland, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and France. Only Britain remained standing. At this point, America had not yet joined the war. After World War I, the U.S. wanted to stay out of European conflicts. Meanwhile, Hitler believed that Britain was his only real enemy left. He underestimated the resilience of Churchill's Britain. So how did Britain turn the tables and defeat Germany? "We shall fight on the beaches. We shall never surrender," declared Churchill. In the next video, we'll explore part 2 of this epic story. Stay tuned!